This report is about President Obama's speech at the Cooper Union Institute in New York City this week. It's also about the general failure of the banking system in the past 2 years. 8 million jobs were lost last year, 750,000 jobs a month. A lot of people were hurting financially, seeing their houses go back to the banks, having trouble paying their bills. And at the same time, they see these investment bankers making astronomical salaries, being paid enormous bonuses. Some of these banks were the same banks that their tax money bailed out, and they absolutely were furious, and they had every right to be. The phrase "too big to fail," it was actually one of our government officials who said, well, they were too big to fail. Too big to fail should have a question mark. Too big to fail? Too big to fail? Nothing should be too big to fail in this country. These people who lost their jobs and their homes, they weren't too big to fail. And they're not going to be very sympathetic to these banks, especially when they're paying such high salaries and bonuses. But to get to the real issue, we need to look at why this meltdown happened. Several people predicted it. I wish people would do some research and see that there were many economists who understood, who knew that the adjustable rate mortgages that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac were offering were a balloon, and they were going to pop. You see, it's very simple. You offer somebody who has very sort of average means at their disposal. They don't have much money. You offer them an adjustable rate mortgage, which means at the initial rate, they can pay the mortgage month to month, but it's adjustable. As soon as that rate goes up, these people are under enormous financial pressure. But of course, when that happens, the banks are long gone. The people who have made the money, they've already made their money, and they could hardly care. There was, of course, a huge amount of money to be made with these subprime mortgages, and of course, the investment banks soon followed Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and started to make a fortune. The question also might arise, what is a derivative? So many people hear about derivatives and they hear about these hedge funds. Well, hedge funds are extraordinary. They often are betting against the economy. They're going to make money when banks are foreclosing on people's homes. They wouldn't want you to know that, but that simply is the case. Derivatives very, very complicated, but buried in a derivative might be a subprime mortgage. The banks are sort of counting on people not knowing what a derivative is. One interesting point is that it is true. This has happened. Treasury officials have come to investment banks to investigate them. And the investment bank will ask them, well, define what a derivative is. And if the Treasury official can define in a clear, accurate way what a derivative is, they'll hire them. They'll hire them because so few people know what they are. And it obviously proves the person knows what they're doing and is probably very bright. Now, the answer to this problem is not this bill. This bill is not going to remove the question, are the banks too big to fail? Yes, they are still too big to fail. But at least they'll be regulated. At least they'll be held accountable. And it's a very important first step. One of the last things I'll say in conclusion is that some people are criticizing President Obama for having former investment bankers working for him, who are actually working on this regulatory legislation. And that's actually a very smart thing to do. Franklin Delano Roosevelt hired Joe Kennedy, father of Jack Kennedy, the president. He hired him to be the first chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission. Why did he do it? Because Joe Kennedy knew every loophole, every trick, every gambit. He knew every way of manipulating the stock market. So when he became the chairman, he knew how to go after these guys. He knew what to go after them for, and he did do a very effective job. So I think this bill will pass. I'm very happy it will. It looks like even the Republicans will support it, but there's far more to do in holding these banks accountable. And let's hope that the answer to the question, too big to fail, should be a question too big to fail. Answer, no.